Welcome to another edition of the Between Two Wheels podcast. This is episode 147. On today's show, the world mourns the passing of Taylor Phinney's career. Transfer market update. We're going to do some 2020 Tour de France route has been announced. Season-ending results. We'll go to some of those in the NCNCA and the World Tour. NCNCA, they had an awards banquet. Maybe we'll talk about that. Some things that make you go, some winners and losers. And what did Curt say? All coming up on the Between Two Wheels podcast. This is Tyler Janke. Sit back and enjoy. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining in. Welcome to those on the YouTube channel, those that find us on any of the podcast catchers out there. Look, we're going to do a little bit of mailbag. Some people have sent some things in. Appreciate any input you got. During this time of year, there's just some few and far between episodes sometimes. Hey, I got a job. I have family. My daughter, she's a freshman in high school. She's on the volleyball team. They're making the playoffs. She just made the varsity basketball team. That's some busy times. I've got another kid in Little League, another one in cheer, another one in college. It's a busy time. Oh, and I have a job and a wife, so things happen. But the reality is, if Curt and Chris Flower, Curt Mills, if they would join in a little bit, we'd probably be a little bit more consistent on some of these podcasts. So harass them, and I will do the same. What did Curt say? We're going to start out with that. Well, not much. Actually, Curt said he lost a bunch of weight, and he has. He's been looking really good and fit on the bike. We did a ride last night with just Chris Flower, Curt Mills, and I. Those two guys are flying, by the way. So watch out for the 2020 DDA team. I'm really hoping we're going to be going well. Chris recently won a triathlon in Folsom last weekend in his age division. 35, 39, probably what it was. I don't know. Maybe they're a little bit more specific. But I think he had 200 some participants, and he ended up winning it. Now, in his defense, as someone who I don't think can swim at all, he usually kind of floats and hopes to get through it. They canceled the swim portion, so I think it was a bike. So it was really about a race of transition. Anyway, he can smoke everyone on the bike, which he did, so he ended up winning. Congratulations. And he used to be a runner too. So if he could just do duathlons, and I think he won some kit, some of those sleeveless jerseys. So we're looking forward to seeing that out there. Miss those two guys. Come in and join us next time, and we'll have a little podcast discussion. Taylor Phinney announces his retirement. Now look, Taylor Phinney, he's a renowned son of Davis Phinney, who rode the Olympics, 1984 Olympics for the USA. His wife wins the gold medal that year, Connie Carpenter Phinney. They get married. They have children. One of those is Taylor Phinney, who's quite the prodigy for cycling, a big kid and can do well. He won, I think junior, very good on the track, but time trialist, won junior Paris-Roubaix, I believe. Lot of promise for him. Comes out, this is one of his best results as of late. I think it was 2018 Paris-Roubaix, where he was top 10, top 15 there. His teammate was third or fourth. So he's been doing well, but he had a crash back in 2014 on the U.S. professional road race in Chattanooga. Bad crash, went down. It could have been a service vehicle that caused it on one of the descents there. It really caused some trouble with his leg, and his comeback has been somewhat suspects as of late. I think 2018 he got in the KOM jersey for a little bit along with Nate Brown. He was off in some breaks. Kind of gave us a new look into Taylor Phinney's new social media. Ooh, it's a bit rough watching that. He needs to up his game if he's going to be, I don't know what he's going to do. I think he's big into art now, but I think his whole life just kind of changed. At 29 years old, retiring, I'd been talking about he and Nate Brown, by the way. Nate's going down to Raleigh. Taylor Phinney's quitting. I'd been kind of lamenting the fact that he'd been not racing at all this year and taking spots on a team, pretty big budget world tour team that can, find a spot for someone who's actually hungry and willing to actually participate in the races. I know they're doing some of the Grand Fondo and gravel events. I think he did Dirty Kansas, I want to say. But other than that, I don't know what you're really doing for your team other than just kind of being Spicoli out there. So I was glad to see him actually give up and retire if his heart's not in it. If your heart's not in it, we saw that with what's his name? Was with Duquesne Quick Step, and then Katusha. He quit as well. Sprinter. Why is it failing me? I don't remember his name. But Taylor, good to see him actually take that step back and give someone else a chance. And if you're not in it, you're not in it. It's also sad though to see someone with such talent kind of wane away. A few years ago, I wrote an article about Taylor Phinney and his ambitions. He was doing well in the Olympics and had chance of doing well there. He was also taking over the selection for Worlds. He was trying to get into Worlds, and there's a whole thing there. And I spoke about it last time about the World Championships and the U.S. team not really being able to have much of a contingent at the Olympics due to and it's all based on their Olympic squad. I'm sorry, their World team and how many actually have them qualify for the Olympic team. At the time, there was here's my article. It's like why the selection of Taylor Phinney to the U.S. Olympic TT squad is not a gamble, but well-deserved. Now, actually, I'll end up reading this and I'll post it in as a separate indication. But basically back then he was participating. He was getting the top 15s and he was gave the actual selection slots to the U.S. team at the Olympics, and he was well deserving. He was one of the guys actually doing this participations. He was then current national champion on the TT, and he definitely deserved those. Let's walk through this. Second-year BMC pro Taylor Phinney seemed excited yet reserved and humble about his 2012 Olympic team selection this past week, saying it was, quote, a gamble to include him. But here is why Taylor Phinney deserves a selection, even if it is a gamble. Deserving a spot due to performance. Any Olympic selection is a gamble, unless you are such a dominant force in your sport that to not pick you is a gamble. But obviously, some picks are bigger gamble than others. Taylor has proven himself in the time trial over the past 2 years as a pro with several big wins, none bigger than the 2012 Giro Prologue, giving him the leader's pink jersey, no less. But the dominant force in the time trial and sure bet is the reigning U.S. time trial champion, David Zabriskie. Remember, this was written in 2012. David is renowned for his TT skills and seems to take the U.S. title more often than Tiger Woods takes a mistress. Well, actually, David's only won it 7 times. However, the 2010 edition gave the win to Taylor, just narrowly beating him perennial tour contending TT specialist himself, Levi Leipheimer. Zabriskie didn't compete in 2010. Taylor can win almost any time trial, so picking him isn't such an odd choice. Even with his useful in the long distance, Taylor is still regarded as a threat as he's maturing more each year. This year's U.S. TT Championship did not pit David against Taylor. Taylor was in Italy for the Giro, so a head-to-head comparison isn't available. In addition, with the new USADA allegations against Lance Armstrong, several riders that testified previously and possibly admitting some former doping have recused themselves from possible selection. Christian Vandevelde, Levi Leipheimer, George Hincapie, and David Zabriskie, leaving no doubt that Taylor was the best pick for this event based on his record. Deserving a spot in 2011 World TT Championships to determine Olympic qualifying. All right. The 2011 World Championships didn't go that well for Taylor as he only netted a 15th place in the 46.4 kilometer time trial. However, Taylor was the best placed American, with Andrew Talansky slotting the next best American finish at 16th place, just behind Taylor. The world's course was a longer TT than most Taylor has raced and certainly a bit above a first-year pro's range. Yet he was surprisingly well placed, all things considered. The kicker here is that USA would have been allowed another rider to compete in the 2012 Olympics if they had garnered a top 10 placing in the world's time trial. Since Taylor was a top U.S. finisher at 15th, Team USA is now only allowed to field one rider for the upcoming Olympics at this discipline. But in fairness to Taylor, he actually competed in the 2011 World's TT, unlike Levi, Dave Zabriskie, or almost any other TT renegade the U.S. would have selected for the Olympic Games. If Zabriskie or any other of the American hopefuls trying to make the TT squad had really felt it was in their interest to help, they would have competed at the Worlds and actually assisted the team in getting that extra rider. Instead, the chances for the Team USA to gather a gold medal in the TT was cut in half by simply having our other top riders forego the 2011 World's TT race. For this very reason, Taylor should be considered above all of those riders that qualified for the World's TT but refused to participate. If a rider isn't interested in helping the team qualify for the event, they shouldn't really be considered for the event either. Lucky for Taylor, he deserves a spot on his merits, and no one should be arguing that. Taylor should be proud of his selection and realize the gamble was to be taken by the others when they decided not to race the 2011 World Championships and still hope to get that one coveted slot. I tweeted this out. This was an article I posted on a blog I had, tweeted it out, and actually got a response from Taylor Phinney saying, "Hey, thanks, dude. I read the whole thing. Haha." All right. Look, the point is, it's kind of a little bit of a tribute to Taylor back then, back in 2011. Came out with BMC. He ended up, transferring over to EF Education later on. But he was very motivated, and he was really taking on the world of cycling. And this is his job. Now he's saying, I'm not interested in, okay, I get it. I don't know what you're going to do. I don't know that you have any education. Maybe this is a kind of a result of you being able to have this lifestyle with your family, and they're going to take care of you. I don't know. Not many of us out there that have a job, maybe we don't like it, but we make the money, could just say, I don't have a passion for this, and I'm going to go paint instead or make music. If you can make music and you can do painting and still date Niwa Doma, good for you. But, most of us out here, we can feel a little bit like you're 29 and you're giving up on this career. Someone who has a lot of talent and could probably just, sit there for the next 10 years and collect well and have a good career out of it. Okay. I don't know that the injury so much played a part physically into the demise of Taylor Phinney as it did mentally into the demise of Taylor Phinney. He's obviously got different things he's going for, as indicated from the article there. His mindset back then was much more about, getting some aspiration, goals of the tour, of the World Championships, the pink jersey at the Giro, getting an Olympic gold medal. And he's forgone that. So anyway, good luck to Taylor in the future. Some of those races that you came back and we enjoyed you racing, thank you. Appreciate those. Some of your commentary on camera, on Instagram, on Twitter, less so, partly because I don't know. I made a tweet not too long ago where he came out, and I don't remember what he said, but I'm like, dude, you're making the fight for legalization of marijuana more difficult, okay, with the way that you talk. Anyway, good luck, Taylor. Transfer market. I don't have too much on the transfer market. There's a bunch of stuff going on out there. Taylor Phinney retires. Ian Garrison signs with Deceuninck Quick Step. I think he was with Action Berman. I talked about him last time. There's Michael Garrison and Ian Garrison, and they just had an article, Vela News, about Ian Garrison signing with Deceuninck Quick Step and how he had helped Quinn Simmons win the juniors and how he had done at the U23. It's not possible. You can't actually, according to UCI rules, race the juniors and the U23 at the same time in the same year. It's illegal. So they were mixing up Michael and Ian Garrison. I had commented where speculated, I think they're brothers. I don't know. Actually, I haven't done the comparison on that or really dig deep on there. I just know that they have the same last name. They're both really good riders, and they're not both going to Deceuninck Quick Step, just Ian Garrison. Congrats to him. That's a real good, I think that's a great spot for him to go. They take on their riders and they just have a winning, don't like the Wolfpack necessarily, but they do win a lot. So this will be a good spot for him. I think Jack Bauer, Brent Bookwalter, they've signed another year for Mitchelton Scott. So it's good to see the American Brent Bookwalter and the former American Spy from the movie TV show 24 being able to have another year with Mitchelton Scott. Other than that, I'd keep the watch on Rohan Dennis, see how he does. I know he was sacked by Bahrain Merida, so we'll keep an update on that. Just a kind of a side thought here on speaking of Bahrain Merida. It's interesting in Japan Cup. We got Guangxi is happening right now. There's this whole blow up that happened with the NBA and going to China, and one of the GMs, I think, for the Houston Rockets had tweeted out his support of Hong Kong and their not their independence, but basically civil justice, and just saying, hey, there's some brutal. The point is, China, a little bit oppressive. Hong Kong being oppressed on. he was supporting Hong Kong, and it was a big deal because the NBA has a lot of action over there in the matter of fact, they say in China. Matter of fact, I think they say there's more fans over there in China of the NBA than there are people in the U.S. Big deal, obviously a big market. And then all these woke basketball players and coaches who would comment on anything possible that's happening in the U.S. and around the world, perfectly fine. They decided to clam up about it with China. Okay. But I'm not going to get into that other than it reminds me of, that to me is not even as big a deal as what you see in cycling. And they've had some articles. I know Neil Rogers has written a little bit about it, not in too much depth, but, you have Bahrain Merida, you have UAE, these Sultan, these Saudi oil, they're not Saudi, but these, oil-rich countries that are somewhat dictator-like, and Qatar, they have these races over there, and the UCI and cycling is kind of all mixed in there. They have teams that are supported by some of these people that are it's questionable, and there's really not much of a social justice coming out from any of the cycling. I don't know that I want them to necessarily, but anytime you're trying to promote freedom and liberty around the world, I'm a favor of that. So I don't know look, cycling is a little bit different. I think the NBA if the NBA wanted to, they'd say, hey, we want to take a stand and we want to promote something. I mean, look, they canceled their All-Star game in, I think it was North Carolina a few years ago, because North Carolina had passed a law about transgender bathrooms, but they're not going to take a stand about China. I don't necessarily give a crap on any of these, but if you're going to say that you can promote change with your business, maybe you start with one of the biggest, authoritarian governments in the world. With that said, it reminds me of the transgender Rachel Mckinnon, cyclist, transgender, formerly man, I don't know if she did the full surgery, but she's a woman now racing for in the Masters UCI. She won again her gold medal in sprints, I believe, UCI Track Masters, 35-39 age division. She also set the world's fastest time, I think, for her division in qualifying. A little hullabaloo on that. You never see the women transferring to a man and being competitive. So if you think that there's not a difference between men and women, and even during the transformation, I know she's I've talked about this before. There's limits the UCI sets for testing and what they have to do, showing their testosterone levels and all these things. It's only going from male to a female. That's the only way that those tests. The other one just says, if you're going from a female to a male, it just says, you have to pass the normal testing. So obviously we know there's a difference. Scientifically, there's got to be a difference. As a father of two girls, it somewhat concerns me because I really want to hold true to, see my daughters being able to participate in whatever sport they do. And it seems like, more women would have an issue with this than men. And the reality is, how do you deal with this? Maybe just wipe out all gender specific competition, and you just have one big mass grand fondo type of thing for all the events. And then we'll see how it shakes out. My thought is it's going to shake out a little bit differently, and it's only going to hurt the women in that case. But hey, send your opinions in. More than willing to take those on. Season ending World Tour. All right, there's been a lot of races that's happened, and I don't know if I'll be able to get into all of these, but we'll just kind of give some overviews. Enric Mas, he wins Guangxi overall. We'll wait for the return of Chris Flower because he loves that race. Second home to him or something, but he does love the Guangxi, and maybe it might just be the pronunciation of it. But we'll dive into those results in a little bit more detail with him. I know Dan McClay for EF won a race over there. Someone else did. Hey, obviously a few people won races over there on that Guangxi. Enric Mas, though, I think he's going to Movistar, and it will be interesting to see him trying to get I think he was fourth, I want to say, a few years ago in the Vuelta, the year that Contador bailed out. Froome won. Was that 2018, I guess, or 17, one of those. And so he's an up-and-comer. He's leaving Dakota Quick-Step. They're not much of a support for him, I think, on GC type of riding. So good move for him. Mike Woods won Milano-Torino over Valverde in a huge move up this final pitch. It was pretty impressive to see. He also was second at a stage of the Japan Cup. He was second at the Giro dell'Emilia and fifth at Il Lombardia. he's had a good end of the season. He's really focused on that. He did well, this year. And look, I like Mike Woods. He's got a lot of talent. Last year he was top 3 in Worlds with Valverde and Bardet, I think it was. So good for him. And you're only going to see more stuff coming from him as well. Roglic was his season, and was he the rider of the year? I mean, third in the Giro, skips the Tour, wins the Vuelta, and has a slew of other wins this year. First in Giro dell'Emilia, first in Tre Valli Varacin. These are just all in the last month. 7th at Il Lombardia, and 3rd at Cronos des Nations. Impressive. Il Lombardia results, kind of the closing, was it the race of the falling leaves or something like that? Balcamolama ends up winning that late little break, 16 seconds over Alejandro Valverde. Bernal, Fuglsang, Woods in 5th place, Jack Haig in 6th. Impressive for him. Good job. Roglic 7th, Emmanuel Bachmann 8th, Pierre Latour 9th, and Rudy Millard in 10th. So Il Lombardia, good results. Good for Balcamolama coming through. They had Mads Pedersen winning world championships. Trek, they've got him. I think Nibali's coming over. They still got Richie Porte. You're looking to, if you want Wollonga Hill 1 every year, you keep Richie Porte. That can only happen for so long, though. I don't know if he's going to be able to hang on. Hopefully something happens better for Richie Porte coming up. It's kind of going to combine mailbag and some NCNCA stuff here. Jason Grefrath sent me an email, and I'm sure he's willing to send me an email. So it's pure mailbag, and I'm sure he doesn't mind me sharing this. Hey, Tyler, I'm not sure if you care or not. I do care. But I figured I'd pass along a pulse on the NCNCA and some data I pulled together from Barbat data. I do this every year just because I'm curious and because I like fiddling with Excel. You need to focus on your job. Below are the top 10 most individual podiums in the NCNCA. Of note, John Baker won the most races, 11. Robert Pascoe was on the podium the most and had the most second places, 8 seconds and 26 podiums. The top 3 most podiumists are all aged 55 plus. Non-masters men of note: Chantal Tupaz, 13. Zach Rosen, 27, went from a 5 to a 2 in one season. I think these are points that they had. Jennifer Steele, 40. I think that's the points. 4 to a 3 upgrade. And Massimo Morson, 12, all of note. Okay. Riders by place count. So this is interesting. Tops, place, first place, second place, third place, fourth, and fifth. Grand total of kind of the points on that. I guess that's maybe where he went with these placings of 12, 40, and all those others. So you had Robert Pascoe. He leads all of those, and that's kind of what I was saying. Top 5 podium places here with 26. He had 9 firsts, 8 seconds, 2 thirds, 4 thirds, 3 fourths, and 4 fifth places. And I'm not going to go through all of these ones, but we're going to just go through the top ones here. Andre Tenthero had 26 podiums. He had 6 wins. Jerome Nadal had 21 podiums. He had 7 wins. Jonathan Baker, we said 11 wins, 18 podium places. Nick Theobald, 5 wins total for 17 podiums. Chantal Tupaz, 15 podiums, 9 wins. Zach Rosen, 15 podiums for 5 wins. Jennifer Steele, 1 win and 15 podiums. Massimo Morson, we just mentioned, 14 total podiums, 5 wins. Dave Grenman, 7 wins, 14 podiums. I just want to look here because Pascoe comes out here and gets 9 wins. I'm just going to look and see which of those top 5 places was their highest number. Pascoe, his highest number was first place at 9. Andre, he was tied for his first and fifth places, 6 each. Jerome Nadal, his biggest one was his 7 wins. Baker, you're going to do his 11 wins. He didn't even get a 4th place all season. What a loser. 2 seconds, 3 thirds, 2 fifths, no fourths. Jonathan, you are not spreading the wealth very well. Nick Theobald, 5 wins, but 6 fifth places. So he wins, gets 5th, he gets 4th a few times. So Chantal, she either wins with 9 or she gets 2nd or 3rd. Now, look, part of the problem with some of the women's field are they're so thin. Sometimes you may not have a fourth or a fifth. And I laugh, but it's sad. And, the field level needs to be up. But, some of these women are going to win no matter who's in the field. So good for her. Zach Rosen, his biggest was his 5 wins. I mean, yeah, he was top one anyway. Jennifer Steele, she had 1 win. Her biggest number was her second place at 6th. Massimo, he was his 5 first places was his biggest number. Dave Grunman, he either wins, he got 7 wins, and he had 2 seconds, 2 thirds, 2 fourths, and 1 fifth. So he's pretty consistent. He's either going to win or he's barely going to make the podium. Good job, Dave Grunman, by the way. Solid guy, good rider. He joined Pete's last year. I think that helped him a lot. Good for him. That's kind of a breakdown of the NCNCA. Look, they had a banquet. Last year I was going to go and some things came up. I was just going to go and podcast there. This year I did not make it. I wasn't in town at the time. And I saw that Katie Hall was there as a special speaker. So that would have been really cool to see. One of these days I'll get there as a reporter, maybe as a cyclist. Probably not. How about some things that make you go, All right, well, I don't have Chris and Curt here for their input or anything. 2020 Tour de France route just announced. Today's Thursday. I think the Giro route is being announced today as well. Probably already is as I'm doing this recording. But we'll talk about that next time. Look, I'm not going to do much into this, just kind of give you a breakdown of what I see. Rumor is Sagan's going to be riding the Giro. He's supposed to make a big announcement today. Another rumor, I think it was Bernal said he was going to ride for Chris Froome the next year, and this is according to Froome. We'll see about that if it comes through. The 2020 route starts down in Nice, so you're looking at kind of the eastern portion of the country down near to the south, just below the Alps area. We have our correspondent friend down there, Jonathan Scriven. Probably we'll be talking to him near the tour comes about how that town is going to be transformed. Looks like they're starting there in town, do a race, and then stage 2, they do a mountainous race. Maybe that's a Mount Faron. I know he used to live on the mountain that they do with the Paris-Nice road race, stage race. So I'll talk to him about that one. And they have one individual time trial this year at stage 20, 36 kilometers, ending up La Planche de Belfi. That was, I think, stage 6 last year, where they're in the Vosges Mountains range, where it really kicked off. They had a little bit of gravel at the end, and great finish there. So that'll be super interesting. So the one time trial, 36K, and it ends on this mountain. So fantastic. Peter Stettner had called it kind of Vuelta-ish, the Tour de France route. And you know what? Speaking of which, there's no day over 200 kilometers. They don't even have a 200-kilometer day. They're all under 200K. There's more of the pitchy mountains. You've got the climbing day 2 hits the mountains. So they start down here, and they hit Gap, and it's kind of a transition over to, I didn't see if they actually went Mont Ventoux this year. It doesn't look like they do, but they head over then to the Pyrenees. They hit them up there. They fly up to the central portion on the west coast. They do a few things over there. They kind of hit the central mountains over the Vosges and the Alps and head over there and finish over at La Planche de Belfi before they head up to Paris for the little jaunt around the Champs-Élysées. Other than that, we'll see what happens. If the climbers, maybe they're trying to really get Alaphilippe back in the mix. Maybe they're really trying to get the other Frenchman, Bardet. Who's the one that did really well last year? Here it is, knee. Can't remember his name. It's a rough morning for me here. Mailbag. Well, we just talked about Jason Grefrath. I did just get a message last night saying, "Hey, where you guys at? I'm looking for another video. We miss you." So here we are. We're back out to you on the YouTubes and the interwebs. All right. How about some winners and losers? Well, winners. I don't know if this is really a winner. We'll see. WADA hopes to use artificial intelligence to catch dopers. With the use of biological passport over the last several years and the more data available, they're going to this more data-centric, having some AI crunch all the data. They hope the data can be more easily determined and analyzed with the AI. With this announcement, Team Ineos was very delighted to hear because, as you know, their team of robotic cyclists, they now can deliver all their data in ones and zeros instead of giving a blood test like other humans. Losers. Speaking of, look, you have losers. kit brand Endura pulls out its movie star sponsorship because, quote, UCI dead end. They say the constraints applied to the growth of the technology as dictated by the UCI is so bad that they will now focus on triathlon instead, kind of like Chris. Wow. So, I've read this book. It's been years. How Nations Die or Why Nations Die, something like that. And one of the whole ideas in there's many concepts, but one of them was about nations profligating and perpetuating the new technologies. Some comes in with a loom instead of doing, steaming by hand. And basically the government of the country, instead of trying to prop up the old business, kind of see with taxis, right? Taxi services kind of going the way, but yet we still have governments that want to like outlaw Uber and Lyft and keep these high spending taxi services in. Those are the kind of things. Or, the buggy comes, replaces the horse, the car replaces the horse, those kind of things. The point is the countries that were allowed their technology to innovate, and even if you lose jobs on the old things, those are the ones that perpetuated. It makes you wonder about cycling, and I'm just spitballing here, but the UCI, we saw that they're worried about sock length, and that's, they're not letting technology take over with aerodynamics on the kit to the point where Enduro is like, this is ridiculous. We can't even, what's the point of innovating when the UCI is blocking us? There's a bike weight limit. That whole idea at the bike weight, at the time it came into it, was some companies were really getting a light bike. Then they were worried about safety, that you're going to make this bike so light that it's just going to, disintegrate during a race. Well, a company is not going to want to make a bike, especially for pros, that is going to do that. So they're going to self-regulate that point. So why do you need to regulate the necessity of the bike weight limit? Now it's a joke. They add weight to the bike because the bikes are, does that make sense? I mean, the whole idea wasn't necessarily, it was supposed to be about safety. Now the bikes are actually below that just because they're so light. You can buy them off the market. And riders were having to add weight so that they met the limit. Does that mean that they're suddenly safe if you're adding a weight in your seat tube? No, that just means you're making this weight limit that's arbitrary by the UCI. Stupid tech standards. And then, we've heard the thing about the jig with the technology with the time trials and all that. Who knows what's going to happen from there. All right. That's all we've got. Look, we had some controversial, Taylor Phinney's, career passing along, kind of took a rip into that. Rachel Mckinnon kind of took a little rip into that. Talking about, you movie star, look, controversial day all in all. It'll be interesting to see how the Giro announcement comes. Personally, it's what it is, What if one of these races decided one year to just take out the mountains altogether? How do you think that one of the Grand Tours just eliminate them, make this tour a Mark Cavendish type? Speaking of Cavendish, he won a 6-day race over Caleb Ewing. They're like, he's back. Is he? I don't know. But he's back racing at least, and he won. So it'll be interesting to see what his motivation is for this year. Who do we say he's going to? Bahrain Merida, maybe, I think it was. I don't really remember what, maybe we have it up on our transfer market, because it will be interesting to see how he comes through. I know he's looked to join whatever team he's joining, and he's going to be doing team signed Wout Poels, Nibali, and rumored to be getting Cavendish as well. Was that Trek? Not sure. I think it might be Trek. We'll have to dig back into that, see where he's going. Okay, that's all we have for today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on the Between Two Wheels podcast, episode 147. I appreciate everybody. Go in there, find it, spread the news, make a comment. Those things actually give us a rating. Give us a little comment. Those things actually do help the analytics and put our show out there a little bit more organically. Helps us. The more viewers we get, the more excited we get, the more content we'll try to keep creating. So once again, news and cycling commentary from Northern California. We appreciate all your interest and all your input. You can find us on Facebook, Between Two Wheels Podcast, Instagram, Twitter, B2W_podcast. And once again, keep safe out there.